Imagine spending today's money on a luxury cruise. The food is incredible. Your room feels like a 5-star hotel. Everyone keeps telling you, "Don't worry. This ship is unsinkable." 4 days later, you're standing on a freezing deck, watching the Atlantic Ocean swallow the largest ship ever built. Sounds like a disaster movie. Except, it actually happened. This is the story of the Titanic. A ship so advanced, people believed nothing could sink it. Until one cold night, everything went terribly wrong. But here's the question almost everyone gets wrong. Did an iceberg really sink the Titanic? Or was something much bigger already sealing its fate? Because believe it or not, some experts think the iceberg wasn't the only reason this disaster happened. So, let's go back to 1912. Long before airplanes carried millions of people every day, crossing the Atlantic Ocean meant traveling by ship. And one company wanted to build the greatest ship the world had ever seen. That company was the White Star Line. Their newest ship, RMS Titanic. It stretched nearly 270 meters, about the length of 3 football fields. It was packed with luxury. Grand staircases, fancy restaurants, swimming pools, even a gym. Basically, it was the floating version of a 5-star hotel. And everyone wanted a ticket. On April 10, 1912, Titanic finally left England on her very first voyage. Her destination? New York City. More than 2,200 passengers and crew were on board. Some were incredibly wealthy. Millionaires traveled in first class with private suites, elegant dining rooms, and meals that looked like they belonged in a royal palace. Others were families chasing a better life in America. Many had sold almost everything they owned, hoping this journey would change their future forever. For 4 days, everything went perfectly. The sea was calm. The engines ran smoothly. Passengers relaxed. Children played on deck. The crew believed they were making excellent time. Then, messages started arriving. Nearby ships warned Titanic about dangerous ice ahead. Not one warning. Several. Huge icebergs had been spotted directly along their route. Today, you'd probably slow down. Maybe even change course. But Titanic kept moving at almost full speed. Why? Some historians believe the captain wanted to arrive early. Others think they simply believed the ship could handle almost anything. After all, everyone called Titanic unsinkable. Then came the night of April 14th. The ocean was unusually calm. Almost too calm. Normally, waves crash against icebergs, making them easier to spot. But that night, the water looked like glass. There was another problem. The lookouts didn't even have binoculars. Believe it or not, the key to the locker holding them had accidentally left the ship before departure. So the crew relied only on their eyes. Then, at 11:40 p.m., someone shouted, "Iceberg, right ahead!" The bridge immediately ordered, "Hard a starboard!" And the engines were reversed. But it was already too late. The giant iceberg scraped along the side of the ship. It didn't make a huge hole. Instead, it tore open several small sections below the waterline. Water rushed inside. At first, many passengers barely noticed. Some even joked about the strange vibration. But below deck, engineers were seeing something terrifying. Titanic was taking on water. Faster than anyone thought possible. Titanic had 16 watertight compartments. The designers believed the ship could stay afloat even if 4 of them flooded. But the iceberg damaged. 6. Water began spilling from one compartment into the next. Like filling an ice cube tray one section at a time. That's when the ship's designer, Thomas Andrews, did the calculations. His conclusion was terrifying. Titanic had less than 3 hours left. Captain Edward Smith gave the order no one wanted to hear. Prepare the lifeboats. But there was one enormous problem. Titanic only carried enough lifeboats for about half the people on board. Wait. The largest ship ever built didn't have enough lifeboats? Seriously? At the time, maritime safety rules were outdated. They required far fewer lifeboats than Titanic actually needed. Even worse, many of the first lifeboats left only half full. Passengers didn't believe the ship was really sinking. Some refused to leave the warmth of the ship. Others thought the lifeboats looked more dangerous than staying on board. As time passed, panic spread. Families became separated. Crew members shouted orders. Rockets lit up the night sky. The ship slowly tilted forward. One of the most incredible stories happened during the chaos. The ship's musicians kept playing. They hoped the music would calm frightened passengers. Whether every detail of that story is true is still debated. But survivors agreed. Music continued playing for much of the disaster. Imagine hearing peaceful music while the world's most famous ship slowly disappeared beneath your feet. It must have been unforgettable. Then, the lights suddenly went out. Titanic was entering her final moments. In the early hours of April 15, 1912, Titanic could no longer stay afloat. The front of the ship disappeared beneath the ocean. The stern rose high into the air. Then, the enormous ship broke apart. Within minutes, Titanic vanished beneath the freezing Atlantic Ocean. More than 1,500 people lost their lives. Many didn't drown. The water was so cold. Around -2 degrees Celsius, or 28 degrees Fahrenheit. That hypothermia claimed lives within minutes. Hours later, the rescue ship Carpathia arrived. It saved around 700 survivors. But for many, it was already too late. The tragedy shocked the entire world. Investigations quickly revealed several mistakes. Too few lifeboats. Ice warnings that weren't fully acted upon. Ships nearby that couldn't respond in time. After the disaster, international maritime laws changed forever. Ships were required to carry enough lifeboats for everyone. Radio operators had to remain on duty around the clock. And new ice patrols began monitoring the North Atlantic. In a strange way, the Titanic helped make sea travel much safer. More than 70 years later, in 1985, scientists finally discovered the wreck nearly 4,000 meters below the ocean's surface. Silent, dark, and remarkably well preserved. More than a century has passed. Yet the Titanic continues to capture our imagination. Not because it was unsinkable, but because it reminds us that even the greatest human achievements can be humbled by nature. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. If you could travel back to 1912 with one warning for the Titanic crew, what would you say? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.